This story is inspired by real-life submissions. Names and identifying details have been changed. I thought I knew what rock bottom felt like. Burying your husband of 42 years, that's supposed to be it, right? The worst thing that can happen. But grief has a way of making you predictable. And predictable, I learned, can be dangerous. It was a Tuesday night, same as every Tuesday for the past 11 weeks. I finished my shift at County General volunteer work. Really, just helping at the front desk, answering phones, directing lost families through hallways that all look the same. It kept me busy, kept me from sitting in that empty house, listening to the silence where David's voice used to be. Norman picked me up at exactly 10:47 p.m. He was always early, always waiting in the pickup zone with the dome light on so I could see his face through the windshield. I'd started requesting him specifically through the app after that first ride. When he'd helped me with my bag without being asked, when he'd kept the radio low and didn't try to fill the quiet with pointless conversation, I always brought him coffee, a large, black, from the hospital cafeteria. It was still hot when I slid into the back seat. "Evening, Mrs. Holloway," he said, accepting the cup with that same grateful nod. "How was your shift?" "Long," I said, which was the truth, but not the whole truth. The whole truth was that I'd cried in the supply closet after a daughter asked me where the ICU was, and I'd remembered standing in that same hallway, waiting for a doctor to tell me there was nothing more they could do for David. Norman pulled out of the parking lot, taking the usual route lift on McKinley, right on Foster, straight through the quiet neighborhoods where porch lights glowed like tiny promises that someone was home, someone was waiting. Except tonight, he didn't turn onto Maple Street. "Norman?" I leaned forward. "You missed the turn?" "I know." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean, you know?" He met my eyes in the rearview mirror, and what I saw there wasn't confusion or apology. It was something harder, something deliberate. "Mrs. Holloway, I'm not taking you home tonight." The coffee cup nearly slipped from my hand. "Excuse me? Just hear me out." He pulled into the parking lot of a closed gas station, put the car in park, and turned to face me fully. "For the past 2 weeks, maybe longer, I've been noticing something. Every time I drop you off, every single time there's someone standing near your gate. A neighbor, probably no." His voice was firm. "Not a neighbor. Same person, same spot, same time, like clockwork. And tonight, when I drove past your street before picking you up, they were already there, waiting." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what he was saying, trying to dismiss it as paranoia or a mistake or... Norman pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward me. I started recording, just in case. The video was grainy, shot through the windshield at night, but clear enough. A figure standing motionless on the sidewalk, just beyond the reach of my porch light, partially obscured by the oak tree at the property line. Not moving, not walking past, just standing. When was this taken? Last Thursday. And Tuesday before that? And the Sunday before that? He scrolled through his photo gallery. I wrote down the dates. Always between 10:50 and 11 p.m. Your exact arrival window. My hands went cold. Why would someone? That's what I've been asking myself. He pocketed his phone. "But here's the thing, Mrs. Holloway. That app you use, it logs every trip. Same pickup location, same drop-off address, same time, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday for nearly 3 months. Anyone with access to that data would know exactly when you'd be coming home." But who would? The question died in my throat because suddenly, horribly, I could think of several people who might. People who'd asked about my routine. People who'd encouraged me to stick to a schedule because it was good for processing grief. I pulled out my phone with shaking fingers and dialed April, my daughter-in-law. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Jane, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I hesitated, feeling foolish. I need to stay with you and Adam tonight. Is that all right? There was a pause. Too long. Too calculated. Tonight? It's almost 11. Can't this wait until morning? No. I need Jane, honey. You're probably just tired. Grief can make you feel unsafe sometimes, but your house is perfectly April. I'm not asking for a therapy session. I'm asking if I can sleep in your guest room. Another pause. Then, quietly, let me talk to Adam. I heard muffled voices, a door closing. When she came back, her tone had shifted, less concerned, more managing. Jane, we think it's best if you just go home. We can come by tomorrow and talk about this. Adam says you've been stressed lately, and maybe it's time too. I hung up. Norman was watching me in the mirror. That didn't sound good. No? I swallowed hard. No, it didn't. I'm taking you to the police station, he said, starting the car. The substation on Grant. It's open 24 hours. Norman, I can't just... Yes, you can. And you will. He pulled back onto the road. Because whoever's waiting for you knows your schedule better than I do. And that means they're not some random stranger. The words hit me like cold water. They're not some random stranger. As we drove past my street, past my dark house, past the oak tree where the figure had stood in Norman's video, I saw it. Or rather, I saw the absence of it. The spot was empty now. But Norman's headlights caught something else. Fresh tire tracks in the grass near my driveway. Recent. Deep. Like someone had been parked there. Waiting, and had just left. Norman's voice was quiet. Tell me I'm wrong, Mrs. Holloway. I couldn't. Because he wasn't. Norman pulled into the small parking lot of the Grant Street substation just after 11. The building looked more like a converted storefront than a police station brick facade. Fluorescent lights bleeding through vertical blinds, a single patrol car parked out front. You don't have to come in, I told him. I'm coming in. He was already out of the car, walking around to open my door like he always did. They need to hear this from both of us. The officer at the front desk looked young enough to be my grandson. His name tag read Sullivan, and his smile was polite but distracted as we approached. Evening. How can I help you? Norman spoke before I could. We need to report suspicious activity. Someone's been watching her house. Same person, same time, multiple nights. I've got video. Sullivan's expression didn't change much, just a slight tightening around the eyes that suggested he'd heard this kind of thing before. Okay, let me get some information. Ma'am, can I have your name? Jane Holloway. I live at 847 Maple Street. He typed slowly, hunting and pecking. And you've seen this person yourself? No, I've seen them, Norman interrupted. Multiple times. I drive Mrs. Holloway home from the hospital 3 nights a week. Same route, same schedule. For the past 2 weeks, there's been someone standing near her property every single time I drop her off. Sullivan glanced at me, then back at Norman. And Mrs. Holloway, you're just now noticing this? The implication stung. I haven't been home when it happens. I'm in the car. My driver noticed. Right. Sullivan leaned back in his chair. Look, I'm not trying to dismiss your concerns, but a lot of times, especially after a significant loss, people can start seeing patterns that aren't necessarily "I have video," Norman said flatly. He pulled out his phone and placed it on the desk. Dates and times. Same figure. Same location. You want to tell me that's grief? Sullivan watched the videos in silence. When he finished, he set the phone down carefully. Okay, this is worth documenting. Let me pull up your property records and see if there's any additional context. He typed for a moment, frowned, then turned his monitor slightly toward us. Mrs. Holloway, do you have a Ring camera or any home security system registered at your address? No, I never saw the need. Interesting. Because there's a device registered to your address on the neighborhood Wi-Fi network. Ring community sharing. It's been accessing the network repeatedly over the past month, always during evening hours. My chest tightened. I didn't register anything. Could someone have done it on your behalf? Family member? Maybe. I thought of April. The way she'd shown up the week after David's funeral with a casserole and a checklist, things to cancel, things to update, things to make easier for you during this difficult time. My daughter-in-law helped me with some paperwork, I said slowly, after my husband passed. But I don't remember anything about cameras. Sullivan made a note. I'm going to flag this for follow-up. In the meantime, I'd recommend changing your routine. Different times, different routes. Make yourself less predictable. She shouldn't have to change anything, Norman said. Someone's targeting her. That's the problem. I understand your concern. But without evidence of a direct threat, someone standing outside her house every night isn't a direct threat. It's suspicious behavior. But legally, standing on a public sidewalk isn't a crime. Sullivan looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. Mrs. Holloway, I'm not saying you're imagining this. I'm saying we need more concrete evidence before we can take action. If this person approaches you, if they attempt to make contact, if you feel an immediate danger, call 911 right away. But for now, changing your patterns is your best protection. We left with a case number and nothing else. In the parking lot, Norman handed me a manila envelope. It was thin, worn at the edges, like he'd been carrying it around for a while. What's this? Dates? Times? License plates I noticed near your street? I started keeping track after the third time I saw that person. He looked embarrassed. I thought maybe I was being paranoid. But paranoid people don't usually turn out to be right. Inside were handwritten notes on torn napkins, receipts, the backs of gas station tickets. Norman's careful printing. November 12th to 10th, 53 p.m. Figure present. November 15th to 10th, 48 p.m. Figure present. November 17th to 10th, 51 p.m. Same location. Norman. Just in case something happened, he said quietly. I wanted someone to be able to prove it wasn't random. I couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but hold this envelope, this evidence that someone had been paying attention when I thought no one was. Where do you want to go? He asked. I thought of April's voice on the phone. It's the way she'd tried to redirect me, minimize me, send me home. The way she'd said Adam needed to be consulted before I could sleep in their guest room. My neighbor Maggie. She's up late. I'll call her. Maggie answered immediately, like she'd been waiting. Jane, what's wrong? Can I stay with you tonight? I'll explain when I get there. Of course. Doors unlocked. As Norman drove the 4 blocks to Maggie's house, I pulled out my phone and checked my messages. There were 3 from Adam, all sent in the last 20 minutes. Mom, April told me you called. What's going on? Call me back. We're worried. Mom, did you file something with the police? We need to talk about this. Not, are you safe? Not, where are you? Just, did you file something? Like he'd been expecting it. Like he'd been waiting for it. Norman caught my expression in the mirror. Mrs. Holloway. I looked up, my throat tight. How did my son know I went to the police? Neither of us had an answer. But somewhere in the silence between us, a new question formed, one I didn't want to ask, but couldn't ignore. Who had told him? Maggie's living room smelled like chamomile tea and old books. She didn't ask questions when she opened the door. Just pulled me inside and pointed to the couch while she disappeared into the kitchen. I sat there holding Norman's envelope, my phone face down on the cushion beside me, trying not to look at it, trying not to think about Adam's messages and what they meant. Maggie returned with 2 mugs and sat across from me in David's old reading chair, the one I'd given her after the funeral, because I couldn't stand to look at it empty. All right, she said. Talk. I told her everything. The figure outside my house, Norman's videos, the police station, Adam's texts. By the time I finished, my tea had gone cold. Maggie was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up. Come with me. She led me to her front window and pulled up something on her phone. I've had a Ring doorbell for 3 years. Sends alerts whenever someone walks past. I usually ignore them. Lot of foot traffic on this block. She tapped the screen. But you got me thinking. So I checked. She turned the phone toward me. The video showed her front porch, the sidewalk, the street beyond. And there, partially visible at the edge of the frame, was my house, my gate, my porch light, and a figure, standing perfectly still in the shadows. When was this? Last Sunday, 10:52 p.m. She swiped. And Thursday before that, 10:48 p.m. Another swipe. Tuesday, 10:55 p.m. My hands started shaking. That's when I get home. I know. Maggie sat back down, her face grim. Jane, whoever this is, they're not just watching randomly. They know your exact schedule. But how? I mean, the rideshare app logs everything. But who has access to your phone? I thought about it. Just me. And, well, April borrowed it a few times. After David died, she said she was helping organize contacts, update my emergency information, that sort of thing. Did she give it back right away? No. She kept it overnight once. Said she wanted to make sure everything was backed up properly. I felt sick. You don't think we need to check something? Maggie grabbed my phone from the couch. What's your passcode? I told her. She navigated through screens quickly, her expression darkening. Jane, do you use location sharing? I don't even know what that is. It's a feature that lets other people see where you are in real time. It's supposed to be for families, safety, that kind of thing. She turned the screen toward me. You've got it turned on. And you're sharing your location with 2 people, Adam and April. The room tilted slightly. I didn't set that up. I believe you. But someone did. She kept scrolling. And look at this. You've also got automatic notifications set up. Every time you request a ride, it sends a message to Adam's number. Pickup location, drop-off location, estimated arrival time. Why would I? You wouldn't. But April would. If she convinced you it was for safety, if she said it was so, Adam wouldn't worry about you driving alone at night. I tried to remember. Those first weeks after David died were a blur of casseroles and condolence cards and people telling me what I needed to do next. Had April mentioned something about location sharing? Had I agreed without really listening? There's more, Maggie said quietly. Look at your message history with Adam. She showed me. Dozens of automated texts, all identical. Jane has requested a ride. Pickup, County General Hospital. Drop-off, 847 Maple Street. Ida, 10:50 p.m., 3 times a week. Every week since September. A perfect schedule. A perfect pattern. A perfect trap. Maggie, I need to call Adam. Do you? She set my phone down carefully. Because right now, the only people who knew you were going to the police station tonight were me, Norman, and that officer. And somehow, within 20 minutes, Adam knew. He didn't ask if you were okay. He asked if you'd filed something. Maybe April told him I sounded upset, Jane. Maggie's voice was sharp. April tried to talk you out of asking for help. She told you to go home, where someone was waiting. The words hung between us like smoke. I picked up my phone with trembling hands and opened Adam's messages again. Read them slowly, carefully, looking for concern I'd missed the first time. It wasn't there. Just 3 messages asking what I'd done, what I'd reported, whether anything was official. Not, are you safe? Not, where are you staying? Not, what can I do to help? My phone buzzed. Another message from Adam. Mom, we need to talk. Tomorrow morning, come to the house. Not a question, a summons. I looked at Maggie. What do I do? Tonight? Nothing. You sleep here, door locked, phone on silent. Tomorrow? She stood up and closed the curtains. Tomorrow, we figure out who's been watching you. And more importantly, why. Outside, A car drove past slowly. Too slowly? Maggie noticed. We both did. That's the third time that cars circled the block, she whispered. We turned off the lights and waited in the darkness, watching through a gap in the curtains as the headlights crawled past again. This time, they stopped. Right in front of Maggie's house. The engine idled for 30 seconds. Then a full minute. Then the car pulled away. But not before I saw the license plate. I'd seen it before in Norman's envelope, written on the back of a gas station receipt. Same car? Multiple nights? Jane? Maggie said softly. Who drives a silver Honda? I closed my eyes. April does. I didn't sleep. I sat on Maggie's couch watching shadows move across the ceiling, listening to every car that passed, wondering if one of them would stop again. At 6 a.m., I gave up pretending and made coffee. Maggie found me in the kitchen, staring at Norman's envelope spread across her table like evidence at a crime scene. You need to go to the bank, she said. What? Your bank? Today? Check your accounts. Check who has access. She poured herself coffee. Because if April's been tracking your location, if she's been setting up notifications, if she's been circling my house at midnight, she's not doing it for your safety. She's doing it for control. The word landed heavy. Control. David and I had a joint account, I said slowly. After he died, Adam helped me update the contact information. Said it would make things easier. Did you sign anything? I don't remember. Maybe. There were so many papers. Then you need to find out what you signed. At 9 a.m., I walked into First National Bank on Parker Avenue. The same bank David and I had used for 40 years. The same branch where we'd opened our first savings account when Adam was born. The same teller who'd processed David's death certificate and released the funds. Her name was Sharon. She'd sent a sympathy card. Mrs. Holloway, she said with practiced warmth, how can I help you today? I need to review my account activity. All of it. Going back to September. Something flickered across her face. Of course. Let me pull that up for you. She typed, frowned, typed again. Okay, I'm seeing the joint account that was converted to an individual account after your husband's passing. And then, she paused. There have been some recent changes to the account settings. What kind of changes? Contact information, updates, alert preferences, and she hesitated. There was a request 2 weeks ago to add an authorized signer. It wasn't completed, but the paperwork was started. My stomach dropped. Who requested it? Sharon turned her monitor slightly. According to the notes, it was initiated by your son, Adam Holloway. He came in with documentation stating you'd expressed concerns about managing finances alone and wanted him to have access in case of emergency. I never said that. Mrs. Holloway. Her voice took on that careful, condescending tone I was learning to recognize. Adult children often help when parents get forgetful. It's completely normal. And Adam seemed very concerned about your well-being. I'm not forgetful. I'm 64, not 90. Of course. I didn't mean to suggest what documentation did he bring? Sharon clicked through screens. A notarized letter of intent. Signed by you. I want to see it. She printed it, slid it across the counter. The letter was short. 3 paragraphs, stating that I was struggling to manage daily tasks, that I wanted Adam to have financial oversight, that I understood this was in my best interest. The signature at the bottom looked like mine, but I'd never written those words. Never signed that paper. When was this dated? October 18th. 3 weeks after David's funeral. The day April had kept my phone overnight. Sharon, I need copies of everything. Every change request, every form, every piece of documentation associated with this account since September, and I need it now. Her professional smile faltered. Mrs. Holloway, if there's been some misunderstanding, there's been no misunderstanding. Someone forged my signature and tried to take control of my bank account. So either you print those records, or I call the police from your lobby. 10 minutes later, I walked out with a folder full of papers. The authorized signer request. The notarized letter I'd never written. The contact information changes, my phone number replaced with Adam's, for all account alerts. And one more thing. A digital signature log showing that the changes had been made using my phone's IP address. On October 18th, at 11:47 p.m., when April had my phone, Maggie was waiting in her car outside. Well, I handed her the folder. April used my phone to forge documents and try to add Adam as a signer on my account. They failed, but they tried. Jesus, Jane, it gets worse. I pulled out the signature log. Look at the timestamp, October 18th. That's 4 days before Norman noticed someone watching my house. Maggie's face went pale. They weren't just watching you randomly. They were waiting to see if you'd notice what they'd done. And when I didn't, they escalated. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it settling between us. What are they trying to do? I asked quietly. Maggie's jaw tightened. I think they're trying to make you disappear. Not physically, legally. Make you incompetent. Make you dependent. Make you someone who can't be trusted to manage her own life. But why? I don't know. But I think we need to find out what else they've been doing in your name. My phone buzzed. Another message from Adam. Mom, you didn't come this morning. We're coming to you. We'll be at your house at 2 p.m. We need to talk about your behavior. Not my safety, my behavior. Like I was the problem. Maggie read the message over my shoulder. Don't go. I have to. It's my house. Then you don't go alone. She started the car. And you don't go unprepared? What do you mean? She pulled out of the parking lot, heading toward the police station. I mean, we're filing a formal report. Identity theft, attempted financial fraud, stalking, everything. Before they can spin this as a confused widow who doesn't understand her own paperwork. Maggie, he's my son. I know. Her voice was gentle, but firm. But right now, he's also someone who forged your signature and had his wife watch your house. So we document it today. Before this gets worse. I looked down at the folder in my lap. At my forged signature. At the digital trail of someone systematically dismantling my autonomy. And I realized something. The person waiting outside my house every night wasn't there to hurt me. They were there to make sure I stayed predictable. Stayed isolated. Stayed manageable. Until I became someone who couldn't fight back. The police station felt different the second time. Less like a formality, more like a line being crossed. Detective Maria Reeves met us in a small conference room with beige walls and fluorescent lighting that made everything look slightly ill. She was maybe 50, with reading glasses on a chain and the kind of direct eye contact that suggested she'd heard every excuse. Mrs. Holloway, Ms. Chung. She gestured to chairs. Officer Sullivan flagged your case for me. He said there were some concerning developments. I slid the bank folder across the table. Someone forged my signature and tried to gain access to my accounts. I have proof. Reeves opened the folder. Read in silence. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten slightly when she reached the digital signature log. This IP address, she said. You're certain it's your phone? My daughter-in-law had my phone that night. I didn't realize she'd kept it until after midnight. And you didn't authorize any of these changes? No? Did you authorize her to use your phone for banking purposes? I authorized her to help organize contacts. That's all. Reeves made notes. The surveillance outside your home, do you have reason to believe it's connected to these financial irregularities? The timeline matches, Maggie said. The watching started 4 days after the bank documents were forged. Like someone wanted to make sure Jane didn't notice what had been done. Or wanted to document her routine, Reeves added quietly. Establish patterns of behavior. Build a case for diminished capacity. The words hung in the air like a verdict. That's what this is about, I said. They're trying to prove I can't take care of myself. It's a common pattern in elder financial abuse. Reeves closed the folder. Family members established documentation showing confusion, memory problems, inability to manage daily tasks. Then they petitioned for guardianship or power of attorney. Once they have legal control, the victim has very few options for recourse. But I'm fine. I work 3 nights a week. I manage my own home. I believe you. But in court, it's not about what's true. It's about what can be proven. She leaned forward. Mrs. Holloway, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Has anyone suggested you should see a doctor? Get a cognitive assessment? My blood went cold. April made an appointment. Said it was routine. I went last week. What kind of appointment? Outpatient clinic at County General, Memory and Aging Services? Reeves exchanged a look with Maggie. Did you request this appointment yourself? No, April said. My doctor recommended it. Said it was standard for anyone over 60 who'd experienced recent trauma. Did you sign any forms? I tried to remember. The clinic had been busy, sterile, impersonal. A nurse with a tablet. Questions about orientation, recall, daily functioning. I'd felt insulted by the whole thing, like I was being tested on my right to exist independently. I signed something. Consent for the evaluation, I think. Did you read it? The truth felt shameful. No. I was upset. I just wanted it over with. Reeves pulled out her phone. I'm going to make a call. I need to verify what kind of consent form you signed and who received the results. She stepped out of the room. Maggie reached across the table and gripped my hand. This isn't your fault. I should have read it. I should have asked questions. You'd just buried your husband. You were grieving. They used that. They weaponized your grief. The door opened. Reeves came back, her expression harder than before. Mrs. Holloway, the consent form you signed authorized the clinic to share your evaluation results with a designated family contact. That contact is listed as Adam Holloway, not you. The room tilted. What were the results? The clinic can't tell me without your explicit consent. But I can tell you this. Those results suggested any cognitive decline, even mild. They could be used to support a petition for guardianship. And if you didn't know you were being evaluated for that purpose, you couldn't have challenged the assessment in real time. So, they trapped me. They laid groundwork, very careful groundwork. Reeves sat back down. Here's what I recommend. First, you need to obtain those medical records immediately and have an independent evaluation done. Second, we need to document everything: the forged signatures, the surveillance, the appointments you didn't consent to. Third, you need to secure your assets. Change banks if necessary. Revoke any powers of attorney that exist. I don't have any powers of attorney. Are you certain? Because according to county records, there was a petition filed 3 weeks ago listing you as the grantor and Adam Holloway as the proposed agent. My vision blurred. I never filed anything. The petition was withdrawn before it could be processed. But the fact that it was filed at all suggests they were testing the system, seeing how far they could get. Why would they withdraw it? Maybe they realized it was too soon. Maybe they didn't have enough documentation yet. Or maybe, Reeves paused, maybe they realized you were becoming less predictable, and they needed you stable and routine before they made their move. I thought about my Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday schedule. The same hospital shift, the same ride home, the same time, the same route, the same everything. A life so predictable you could set a watch by it. A life someone could document and pathologize and use as evidence. I'm supposed to meet them at my house at 2 o'clock, I said. Don't. It's my house. Mrs. Holloway, if they've gone this far, if they've forged documents and filed petitions and conducted surveillance, then this meeting isn't about reconciliation. It's about control. They're going to try to convince you that you're confused, that you're misunderstanding, that you need help. And if you refuse, They'll use that refusal as evidence that you're irrational. So what do? You respond in writing. Through an attorney, you make it clear that all future communication goes through legal channels. You take away their ability to manipulate you in person. Reeves slid a business card across the table. This is an elder law attorney I trust. Call her today. Tell her everything. And in the meantime, I'm opening an official investigation into identity theft and financial exploitation. I picked up the card. The name was Laura Chunno, relation to Maggie. Just coincidence. This is really happening, I said quietly. Yes, but here's the good news. You caught it early. You have evidence. You have witnesses. And you have time to protect yourself before they can do real damage. They already did real damage. They made me doubt my own mind. Reeves's expression softened. That's what this kind of abuse does. It's insidious. It's designed to make you feel crazy for noticing it. But you're not crazy, Mrs. Holloway. You're awake. And that's what scares them. We left the station at 1:30 p.m. By 2 o'clock, when Adam and April would be at my house, expecting me to show up confused and defensive, I was sitting in Laura Chun's office, signing paperwork that would lock them out of my life until this was resolved. My phone buzzed constantly. Messages from Adam, then April, then both of them. Where are you? Mom, this is ridiculous. We're trying to help you. You're making this worse. Call us back. Mom, please. I turned the phone face down and signed my name one more time. This signature was real, and it was taking my life back. Laura Chun's office smelled like leather and old paper. She was younger than I. Expected maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a notepad already half filled with notes from our conversation. The good news, she said, is that you haven't signed anything that gives them legal authority over you. The bad news is that they've created a paper trail suggesting you need that authority. Can they use the medical evaluation? Only if you let them. We'll request your records immediately and have you evaluated by an independent neuropsychologist, someone with no connection to your family. Someone who can testify, if necessary, that you're fully competent. The word felt clinical. Competent. Like something that could be measured and revoked. What about the bank documents? That's actually our strongest card. Forgery is a crime. Identity theft is a crime. We'll file a complaint with the fraud division and make it clear that any future attempts to access your accounts will result in criminal charges. She looked up from her notes. But I need to ask, are you prepared for what that means? Filing charges against your son. The question sat heavy in my chest. He's not the one who forged the signature. No, but he benefited from it. Or tried to. And unless he's willing to testify that April acted without his knowledge, he's complicit. I thought about Adam's messages. The way he'd asked if I'd filed something official. The way he'd never asked if I was safe. I need to know why they're doing this, I said. Is it just money? Usually it is. But sometimes it's control. Sometimes it's resentment. And sometimes, Laura hesitated. Sometimes people convince themselves they're doing the right thing. That they're protecting someone who can't protect themselves. Even when that's not true. You think they believe they're helping me? I think they believe they know what's best for you. And that's almost more dangerous than greed. We spent another hour going through documents. By the time I left, I had a plan. Revoke all informal permissions. Change my phone number. Request new bank cards. File formal notifications with the hospital, the HOA, my insurance company, anywhere April or Adam might have inserted themselves as emergency contacts. It felt like dismantling my own life to save it. Maggie drove me back to her house. My phone had stopped buzzing, no messages for almost an hour. The silence felt worse than the constant notifications. They know something's changed, Maggie said. How? Because you didn't show up. Because you're not responding. Because for the first time in months, you're not following the script. We pulled into her driveway just as Detective Reeves called. Mrs. Holloway, I need you to come back to the station. We've found something. 20 minutes later, we were back in the beige conference room. This time, Reeves had a laptop open and a man in a county IT services jacket standing beside her. This is Marcus Webb. He works with our digital forensics unit. Reeves gestured to the laptop. After you left, I requested access to the HOA security footage from your neighborhood. Took some convincing, but they finally cooperated. Marcus turned the laptop toward us. Your community has cameras at both entrances and several common areas. Standard HOA setup? What's interesting is the access logs. He pulled up a spreadsheet. Rows of timestamps, user IDs, location codes. Someone's been reviewing footage from the camera nearest your house. Repeatedly. Always during off hours after midnight. Before 6 a.m. And always the same user ID who. Marcus highlighted a name. Dylan Porter. He's listed as a contracted security coordinator for the HOA. But according to the property management company, he was only hired 2 months ago. Right after David died, I said quietly. Right after. Reeves leaned forward. Dylan Porter has no prior security experience. No certifications. No references that check out. But he does have one interesting connection. He's April Holloway's cousin. The room went silent. They planted him, Maggie said. Looks that way. He had legitimate access to security systems, HOA records, gate codes, and he used that access to monitor Mrs. Holloway's routine and coordinate with whoever was conducting the physical surveillance. I felt sick. All of this was planned. Ostensibly, this wasn't opportunistic. This was systematic. Reeves closed the laptop. We're bringing Dylan Porter in for questioning. And I'm recommending that the county prosecutor review this for potential charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, stalking, abuse of access to confidential information. What about April? What about Adam? That depends on what Dylan tells us, and what other evidence we can gather. She paused. Mrs. Holloway, I need to ask, is there anything that would make you valuable enough to justify this level of effort? Inheritance, property, life insurance. I thought about it. Our house was paid off, but it wasn't worth enough to go to prison for. David's life insurance had been modest enough to cover funeral costs and a few months of expenses. Our savings were comfortable, but not extraordinary. Nothing I can think of. What about your husband's estate? Was there a will? Yes. Everything came to me. Adam gets the house when I die, but that's years away. Unless it's not. Reeves's voice was gentle but firm. If they could prove you were incapacitated, they could petition for guardianship, control your assets, make medical decisions, move you into a facility. And once you're declared incompetent, reversing that is nearly impossible. But I'm healthy. I'm fine. You're 64 and recently widowed. You live alone. You've been to a memory clinic whether you wanted to or not. You have a documented routine that could be described as rigid or obsessive. In the wrong hands, with the wrong framing, that's enough. Maggie's hand found mine under the table. They were going to put her away, or threaten to. Either way, they'd have control. Reeves stood. But they made a mistake. They moved too fast. They got sloppy. And now we have documentation. What happens next? We build the case. We interviewed Dylan. We subpoenaed phone records. We tracked the paper trail. And you, she looked at me directly, you stay unpredictable. You don't go home. You don't meet with them. You don't give them any opportunity to manufacture evidence of instability. How long? Few weeks? Maybe less if Dylan cooperates. And if he doesn't? Reeves's expression hardened. Then we do this the long way. But either way, Mrs. Holloway, you're going to be okay. Because this time, someone noticed. And we're not looking away. As we left the station, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Hello? Mrs. Holloway. A male voice. Unfamiliar? This is Dylan Porter. I think we need to talk. My blood went cold. I'm recording this call, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. A long pause. Then, good. Because I want what I'm about to say on record. They told me you were sick. They told me they were protecting you. And I believed them. Until I saw you at that police station, looking healthy and scared and nothing like what they described. His voice cracked slightly. I didn't know, Mrs. Holloway. I swear I didn't know what they were really doing. But you helped them anyway. I gave them access to cameras. I documented your schedule. I thought he stopped. I thought I was helping keep you safe, but I wasn't. Was I? No, I said quietly. You weren't. I'm turning myself in. Tonight, and I'm telling them everything. The line went dead. I looked at Maggie. He's going to cooperate. Then it's over. But we both knew it wasn't. It was just beginning. Dylan Porter walked into the Grant Street station at 8 p.m. with a cardboard box under his arm and the kind of pale, shaky energy that comes from knowing you've crossed a line you can't uncross. Detective Reeves called me an hour later. He brought everything. Access logs, text messages with April, payment records. It's damning. What did he say? That April approached him in September. Told him her mother-in-law was declining rapidly but refusing help. Said the family was worried about her living alone, forgetting medications, wandering at night. Asked if he could keep an eye on things through his HOA position. I never wandered. I never forgot anything. He knows that now. He also knows that April paid him $2,000 cash to track your movements and report back weekly. And that she specifically asked him to note any concerning behaviors, staying out late, erratic schedules, interactions with strangers. She was building a case. A false one. And Dylan's testimony confirms it. Reeves paused. There's more. April asked him to approach you directly twice. Test your memory. See if you'd recognize him as someone who didn't belong in the neighborhood. I remembered a man asking if I needed help carrying groceries. Another time, someone claiming he was checking meter readings. Both times, I'd politely declined and kept walking. She was testing whether I'd report suspicious activity, I said slowly. Right. If you did, you were paranoid. If you didn't, you were oblivious. Either way, she could use it. What about the person standing outside my house? The one Norman saw? Dylan swears that wasn't him. Says he only did surveillance through cameras, never physical observation. Which means someone else was doing the groundwork. My stomach turned. April herself, most likely. The silver Honda Norman documented is registered to her. And her phone records show she was in your neighborhood on every night Norman noted activity. She was watching me. Yes, and documenting, taking photos, probably. Video. Building her evidence file while Dylan provided the official security logs to back it up. I sat down on Maggie's couch, the weight of it all pressing down. What happens now? We arrest April tomorrow morning. Identity theft, stalking, conspiracy to commit fraud. Adam's involvement is murkier. He benefited from the attempted bank access. But we can't prove he knew about the surveillance. Yet, he knew. Those texts aren't enough. Not legally. We need him on record, either lying or admitting knowledge. Which is why I need to ask you something. Reeves's voice changed, became careful. Would you be willing to meet with Adam? Wearing a wire? The question hung in the air. You want me to get him to confess? I want you to give him the opportunity to tell the truth. If he's innocent, he'll be confused and concerned. If he's guilty, he'll try to control the narrative. Either way, we'll know. And if he realizes I'm recording, we'll have officers nearby. You'll be safe. Safe. The word felt almost meaningless now. When? Tomorrow afternoon. Neutral location. Public. We'll set it up. After she hung up, I sat in the silence of Maggie's living room, trying to imagine facing my son across a table, knowing every word would be evidence. Maggie brought tea I didn't drink. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Because, if I don't, he'll keep claiming he didn't know. That April acted alone. That he was just a concerned son. Maybe he was. Then why hasn't he called me once? Not once to ask if I'm okay. Only to ask what I'd filed, what I'd reported, who I'd talked to. I looked at her. That's not concern. That's damage control. The next morning, Laura Chun filed paperwork with the county clerk's office. Revocation of any informal consents. Formal notification that I was represented by counsel. A restraining order request against April, pending her arrest. By noon, April was in custody. By 2 p.m., I was sitting in a coffee shop on Brennan Avenue, wearing a wire so thin, I kept forgetting it was there. Adam walked in at 2:15. He looked tired. Older than I remembered. He slid into the booth across from me without ordering anything. Mom, Adam. Silence stretched between us. He broke first. This has gotten out of hand. April made some mistakes, I know. But she thought she was helping you. Helping me by forging my signature. By having me followed. She was worried. We both were. You weren't yourself after Dad died. I was grieving. That's not the same as being incompetent. He flinched. No one said incompetent. The petition for guardianship did. The one filed in my name that I never authorized. That was withdrawn because you got caught. Not because it was wrong. His jaw tightened. You're twisting this. Making us sound like criminals when all we wanted was to make sure you were taken care of. By taking control of my bank account, my medical decisions, my freedom, by making sure you didn't end up alone and confused in that house, forgetting to eat, forgetting to lock doors, putting yourself in danger. I never forgot anything. You forgot Dad's birthday last month. You forgot we had dinner plans twice. You stopped returning calls. I didn't forget his birthday. I chose not to celebrate it. And I canceled dinner because I didn't want to sit through another meal where you and April discussed me like I wasn't there. He leaned back. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're being defensive, paranoid. I'm being accurate. And there's a difference. Mom, please. His voice softened, shifted. I know you're angry, but we can fix this. You drop the investigation. April apologizes. We all move forward. We're family. Family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't hire people to spy on you. Family doesn't try to have you declared incompetent so they can control your life. We weren't. He stopped. We were protecting you. From what? From yourself. The words exploded between us. Adam realized too late what he'd said. I kept my voice level. So you did know? About all of it? He stood up abruptly. I'm not doing this. Not here. Not with you recording everything to use against me. My blood went cold. How did you know I was recording? Because April warned me you'd pull something like this. That you'd turn us into villains instead of accepting help. April's in custody, Adam. She was arrested this morning. His face went pale. What? Identity theft? Stalking? Fraud? And Dylan Porter is cooperating. So whatever you think you know, whatever story you've been telling yourself, it's over. He grabbed his coat. You're going to regret this. No, I said quietly. I'm going to survive it. There's a difference. He walked out without looking back. Through the window, I watched Detective Reeves approach him in the parking lot. Watched her show her badge. Watched Adam's face as he realized he'd just confessed on tape to knowing about the surveillance, the forgery, the conspiracy. Watched him understand, finally, that his mother wasn't the confused one. He was just the caught one. The county records office was a beige building with fluorescent lights and the kind of industrial carpet that muffled footsteps. Laura Chun met me in the lobby at 9 a.m. The power of attorney petition was filed on November 3rd, she said, handing me a folder. 3 weeks after the bank incident. Someone was escalating. Inside were copies of the original filing, page after page of legal language, but the core was simple. April Holloway petitioned for emergency power of attorney over Jane Holloway due to anticipated incapacity following cognitive decline and recent traumatic loss. The supporting documentation made my skin crawl. A letter from the memory clinic describing my evaluation as concerning. A statement from Dylan Porter noting my rigid routines and apparent confusion about Sierra. A notarized affidavit from April herself describing incidents where I'd supposedly forgotten conversations, missed appointments, left the stove on, all lies, all carefully constructed. Why was it withdrawn? I asked. According to the clerk's notes, the petitioner received notification that you'd retained legal counsel. The withdrawal came within 48 hours. They knew I was fighting back. They knew they didn't have enough evidence yet. The medical evaluation was preliminary. Dylan's observations were secondhand. April's statements were uncorroborated. A judge would have required more before granting emergency authority, so they needed me to deteriorate further. Laura's expression was grim, or appeared to, which is why the surveillance intensified. They needed documentation of you being unstable, forgetful, endangered. And they needed it quickly, before you caught on. But I did catch on. Because Norman noticed. Because you had someone watching out for you who wasn't part of their plan. She closed the folder. Mrs. Holloway, this petition lists April as the primary petitioner. But look at the attorney of record. I looked. The name meant nothing to me. Who is Richard Brenner? A probate attorney who specializes in guardianship cases. Very expensive, very effective. And according to his retainer agreement, she pulled out another document. Paid for by Adam Holloway. $5,000. 2 weeks before the petition was filed, the floor tilted slightly. Adam hired the attorney. Adam funded the entire operation. The petition, Dylan's payments, probably April's legal fees now. This wasn't April going rogue. This was coordinated, planned, financed by my son. Laura's voice softened. I'm sorry. I know this is why. The word came out raw. We weren't rich. The house is worth maybe $300,000. David's life insurance barely covered the funeral. What could possibly be worth all this? I don't know yet. But Detective Reeves is looking into it. Reeves called that afternoon while I was back at Maggie's, staring at papers I could barely process. Mrs. Holloway, I need to ask about your husband's employment. Did he have any retirement accounts? Pension plans? A small 401k? Maybe $60,000? It came to me after he died. What about life insurance through his employer? He retired from Whitmore Manufacturing in 2019. His insurance ended then. We bought a small policy privately. How small? $50,000. Just enough to cover expenses. There was a pause. Mrs. Holloway, I'm looking at documents from Whitmore Manufacturing's benefits department. According to their records, your husband maintained a group life insurance policy worth $500,000. It was part of his retirement package. He paid premiums quarterly, and the beneficiary is listed as you. My mouth went dry. That's not possible. I would have known. When's the last time you reviewed his financial paperwork? The retirement accounts, insurance policies, investment statements. I tried to remember. David had always handled finances. After he died, Adam had helped me organize everything. Had said he'd consolidated accounts, closed unnecessary policies, simplified things so I wouldn't be overwhelmed. Adam helped me sort through everything. He said there was only this small policy. Did he show you the documents himself? Or did he handle it independently? He took the paperwork. Said he'd filed the claims and deposit the funds. I signed whatever he gave me. Mrs. Holloway, the $500,000 policy was never claimed. According to Whitmore's records, no death certificate was ever submitted. The money is still sitting in the insurance company's holding account, unclaimed. I couldn't breathe. Adam told me he'd handled it. He handled it by making sure you didn't know it existed. Because if you were declared incompetent and he became your legal guardian, he could file the claim on your behalf. And as your guardian, he'd control how that money was spent. $500,000. That's motive. That's why they moved so fast after your husband died. That's why they needed you incapacitated before the insurance company flagged the unclaimed policy and contacted you directly. I sat down slowly. They were going to steal my husband's life insurance by pretending I was too incompetent to know it existed. Yes. And it would have worked if you'd stayed predictable. If you'd kept following your routine, kept trusting them, kept believing you were just a grieving widow who needed help. What happens now? Now we amend the charges. This isn't just identity theft anymore. This is conspiracy to commit grand theft through fraud and exploitation of a vulnerable adult. And with Dylan's testimony and the wire recording from yesterday, we have Adam on conspiracy. He's going to be arrested this afternoon. I wanted you to hear it from me first. After she hung up, I sat in Maggie's kitchen trying to understand how the son I'd raised, the boy I'd rocked to sleep and driven to soccer practice and helped through college, had looked at me and seen only an obstacle between him and money. $500,000. David's last gift to me, intended to keep me secure. And Adam had hidden it, had tried to make me disappear legally so he could take it. Maggie found me there an hour later, still holding the phone. Jane? He was going to erase me, I said quietly. Not kill me. Just ... Make me not exist as a person anymore. Lock me in some facility, take control of everything, and spend David's insurance money while I sat in a room somewhere wondering why my son never visited. But he didn't. You stopped him. Norman stopped him. If he hadn't noticed that person outside my house, you would have noticed eventually. Maybe too late, but you would have fought. Would I? Or would I have just believed them? Believed I really was confused and forgetful and too broken to manage my own life? Maggie gripped my hands. But you didn't. You trusted your gut. And now they're the ones who have to answer for what they did. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Dylan. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back. You helped me survive. That's more than my own son did. I didn't wait for a response, 'cause the person I needed to hear from would never apologize. And I was done waiting for him to become someone he wasn't. Adam was arrested at his office on a Wednesday afternoon. I wasn't there, but Detective Reeves called to tell me it was done. He didn't say much. Asked for a lawyer immediately. Smart, I said. Mrs. Holloway, I need to prepare you for what comes next. This is going to be public. Local news will probably pick it up. And Adam's attorney will try to paint you as a vindictive mother who misunderstood her son's good intentions. Let them try. They'll bring up your grief, your age. They'll suggest you're confused. Then I'll prove I'm not. That afternoon, I went to the county clerk's office with Laura Chun and filed formal revocation of all informal permissions. Changed my emergency contacts. Updated beneficiary designate signed. A new will that explicitly excluded Adam and April. Every signature was witnessed. Every document was notarized. Every action created a paper trail that proved exactly how competent I was. One more thing, Laura said as we finished. The insurance company needs you to file the claim for your husband's policy. It's a simple form, but it has to come from you directly. She handed me the paperwork. I filled it out in careful block letters, signed my name, dated it. $500,000. David's last protection for me. Money Adam had tried to steal by erasing my ability to claim it. How long until the funds are released? 4 to 6 weeks? Standard processing time? Laura looked at me carefully. What will you do with it? I don't know yet. But it'll be my decision. Mine alone. That evening, Maggie and I sat on her porch watching the sunset. My phone had been quiet all day. No messages from Adam. No calls from April's number. Just silence where my family used to be. Do you miss them? Maggie asked. I thought about it. I miss who I thought they were. But that person never existed. I was just too loyal to see it. You weren't too loyal. You were a mother. I was a target. I sipped my tea. They saw grief and thought it meant weakness. Saw routine and thought it meant decline. Saw a widow alone and thought no one would notice if she disappeared. But someone did notice. Norman noticed. You noticed. A detective I'd never met noticed. I looked at her. My own son didn't. Or he did and didn't care. Maggie was quiet for a moment. I read once that the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And I think that's what happened to Adam. He stopped seeing you as his mother and started seeing you as an inheritance that wouldn't liquidate fast enough. That's an awful way to think about your parent. It is. But it's honest. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Mrs. Holloway, this is Richard Brenner, attorney for Adam Holloway. My client would like to arrange a meeting to discuss resolution of this matter outside of criminal proceedings. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience. I showed Maggie. He wants to deal. What does that mean? It means Adam's scared. It means his lawyer knows the evidence is bad and wants to negotiate before trial. Are you going to respond? I typed slowly. All communication goes through my attorney, Laura Chun. Her office will contact you if appropriate. Then I blocked the number. No deals, I said. No quiet resolutions. No family meetings where everyone pretends this was a misunderstanding. What do you want? I want the truth on record. I want April and Adam to face real consequences. And I want every other older person whose family is circling them like prey to know they can fight back. 2 days later, Laura called. Brenner reached out. He's offering a plea deal. Adam pleads to a lesser charge, pays restitution, agrees to permanent restraining order, no jail time. No. Jane, I have to present all options, and I'm telling you no. Teed doesn't get to buy his way out. He doesn't get to pretend this was a mistake. The prosecutor might accept the deal even without your approval. Then you tell the prosecutor that I'll testify, that I'll sit in that courtroom and describe every single thing they did, and that if they let Adam walk, I'll make sure every news outlet in the state knows the county protects elder abusers. Laura was quiet. Then, I'll make the call. A week later, the plea offer was withdrawn. The prosecutor filed additional charges, and the trial date was set for January. I spent December preparing, meeting with attorneys, organizing documents, getting an independent cognitive evaluation that confirmed I was sharp, competent, and fully capable of managing my own affairs. The neuropsychologist who evaluated me was kind. She asked questions, ran tests, reviewed my medical history. At the end, she closed her folder and looked at me directly. Mrs. Holloway, there's nothing wrong with your mind. You're grieving, certainly, but grief isn't incompetence. And anyone who told you otherwise was lying. Can you put that in writing? Already did. 15 pages. Detailed enough that no judge will ever question your capacity. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in months, certain. On Christmas Eve, I went back to my house for the first time since September. Maggie came with me. We walked through rooms that smelled stale and looked exactly as I'd left them, coffee cup in the sink. David's reading glasses on the side table, mail piled on the counter. A life interrupted, but not ended. I opened windows, threw out old food, started a load of laundry, made the bed with fresh sheets. You're staying? Maggie asked. I'm staying. This is my home. I'm not letting them take that too. That night, I slept in my own bed for the first time in 3 months. No one watched from outside. No one tracked my movements. No one documented my routine as evidence of decline. I was just a woman in her own house, sleeping soundly, dreaming of nothing. And in the morning, I woke up free. Not because the trial was over, it hadn't even started, but because I'd stopped being predictable. I'd stopped being manageable. I'd stopped being the person they thought they could erase. And that, I realized, was its own kind of justice. The trial lasted 3 days. I sat in the front row every single day, wearing the navy dress David had always said made me look strong. April took a plea deal on day 2. 5 years probation, restitution, permanent restraining order. Her attorney said she'd been manipulated by Adam, that she'd genuinely believed I was declining. The judge didn't buy it. Mrs. Holloway was capable enough to sign the documents you forged, Judge Morrison said, which means you knew she was competent when it mattered to you. Adam went to trial. His attorney argued grief, misunderstanding, a son's desperate attempt to protect his mother, painted me as confused, isolated, influenced by outsiders. Then Laura put me on the stand. I spoke for 40 minutes, described the surveillance, the forged signatures, the hidden insurance policy, described finding out my son had hired someone to watch me like I was a criminal, described the moment I understood he'd been planning to lock me away so he could spend my husband's money. I didn't cry, didn't yell, just told the truth in a clear, steady voice that left no room for doubt about my competence. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Adam got 3 years. The judge could have given him probation like April, but she didn't. You didn't just attempt to defraud your mother financially, Judge Morrison said. You attempted to erase her personhood, to legally declare her incompetent so you could control every aspect of her existence. That's not protection. That's imprisonment. And this court will not treat it lightly. I watched him led away in handcuffs. He didn't look at me. 6 months later, I sat in Laura Chun's office, signing the final paperwork. The insurance money had been released. The house was secured in an irrevocable trust. All legal loose ends tied. What will you do now? Laura asked. I'm going back to volunteering at the hospital. 3 nights a week, same as before. I smiled. But I'm changing my schedule, and I'm driving myself. No more routine. No more predictability. I've learned the difference. I started a checking account at a new bank, joined a book club, took a watercolor class at the community center. Small changes, but they mattered. Norman still picked me up sometimes by choice now, not necessity. We'd have coffee and talk about nothing important. He never mentioned that night he refused to take me home, never asked for recognition of what he'd done. But I knew, and he knew I knew. Dylan sent letters from time to time, apologies mostly, updates on the community service he was doing. He'd lost his HOA job, his reputation, his clean record. He said he deserved it. I never wrote back, but I didn't throw the letters away either. Maggie remained my closest friend. We had dinner every Sunday, alternating houses. Sometimes we talked about what happened. Mostly we didn't. Do you regret fighting? She asked me once. No, I regret needing to. Spring came. Then summer. The trial faded from local news. People stopped recognizing me at the grocery store. Life became ordinary again. Except I wasn't the same person. I was sharper now, more careful, less trusting of people who offered help I didn't ask for, less willing to let grief make me small. On what would have been David's 68th birthday, I went to his grave alone, sat on the grass, and told him everything. The surveillance, the trial, the money he'd left that had almost been stolen. You tried to protect me, I said. And it worked. Just not the way you planned. A breeze moved through the cemetery, warm and gentle. I stood up, brushed grass from my dress, and walked back to my car. Alone but not lonely. Careful but not afraid. Surviving, I'd learned, wasn't about continuing the same patterns. It was about breaking them before they broke you. That night, I made dinner in my own kitchen, ate at my own table, watched television on my own couch, went to bed in my own room. No one watched. No one documented. No one waited. Just me, living my life on my own terms. And if that made me unpredictable, good. I'd earned the right to be surprising. 3 years later, I got a letter from the prison, Adam, requesting contact, saying he wanted to apologize, to explain, to make things right. I read it twice. Then I filed it in a folder marked Closed Matters and put it in the back of a drawer. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way. Not out of hatred, not out of bitterness, but out of self-preservation. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself isn't forgiveness. It's the freedom to walk away from people who tried to make you disappear and never look back. If you've experienced something like this, if you've felt invisible in your own life, controlled by people who claim to care novice, you're not confused, you're not overreacting, and you're not alone. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to fight to stay visible in your own story, because every person who speaks up makes it harder for this to happen to someone else. And that matters more than you know.